Hi, good guys. Are you and your dear Mia safe and sound? It's activist come preacher Professor S. Suresh back with a bang for my 67th video in process for publication on YouTube today, 22nd of August 2020. Topic for discussion today is Business Process Re-Engineering, BPR shortly, a process-based management tool. BPR, Business Process Re-Engineering, is a business management strategy originally pioneered in the early 1990s, focusing on analysis and design of workflows and business process within an organization. The most notable definitions of re-engineering are the fundamental rethinking and radical redesign of business process to achieve improvements in critical contemporary modern measures of performance such as cost, quality, service and speed. It encompasses the envisioning of new work strategies, the actual work process design activity and the implementation of the change in all its complex technological, human and organizational dimensions. BPR is aimed to help organizations fundamentally rethink how they do their work in order to improve customer service, cut operational costs and become world-class competitors. BPR seeks to help companies radically restructure their organizations by focusing on the ground-up design of a business process. According to early BPR proponent Thomas Davenport, 1990, a business process is a set of logically related tasks performed to achieve a defined business outcome. Re-engineering emphasizes a holistic focus on business objectives and how processes related to them, encouraging full-scale recreation of process rather than iterative optimization of sub-processes. BPS is also known as business process redesign, business transformation or business process change management, or business process restructuring. BPR deals with the organization's business process, the steps and procedures that govern how the resources are used to create products and services that meet the needs of particular customers or markets. As a structured ordering of work steps across time and place, a business process can be decomposed into specific activities, measured, modeled and improved. It can also be completely redesigned or eliminated altogether. Re-engineering identifies, analyzes and redesigns an organization's core business process with the aim of achieving improvements in critical performance measures such as cost, quality, service and speed. Re-engineering recognizes that an organization's business processes are usually fragmented into sub-processes and tasks that are carried out by several specialized functional areas within the organization. Often no one is responsible for the overall performance in the entire process. Re-engineering maintains that optimizing the performance of sub-process can result in some benefits but cannot yield improvements if the process itself is fundamentally inefficient and outmoded. For that reason, re-engineering focuses on redesigning the process as a whole in order to achieve the greatest possible benefits to the organization and their customers. This drive for realizing improvements by fundamentally rethinking how the organization's work should be done distinguishes the re-engineering from process improvement efforts that focus on functional or incremental improvement. BPR began as a private sector technique to help organizations rethink how they do their work in order to improve customer service, cut operational costs and become world-class competitors. A key stimulus for re-engineering has been the continuing development and deployment of information systems and networks. Organizations are becoming bolder in using these technologies to support business process rather than refining current ways of doing work. In 1990, Michael Hammer, a former professor of computer science at MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, USA, published the article Re-Engineering Work, Do Not Automate, Obliterate in the Harvard Business Review, in which he claimed that the major challenge for managers is to obliterate forms of work that do not add value. In Japanese term, they call it as MUDA, waste, rather than using technology for automating it. This statement is implicitly accused managers of having focused on the wrong issues, namely the technology in general, and more specifically information technology has been used primarily for automating existing work being done, does not add any value for customers, and this work should be removed, not accelerated through automation. Instead, companies should reconsider their inability to satisfy customer needs and the insufficient cost structure. Even well-established management thinkers such as Peter Drucker, father of management they say, and Tom Peters were accepting and advocating BPR as a new tool for achieving success in a dynamic world. During the following years, a fast-growing number of publications, books, as well as journal articles were dedicated to BPR, and many consulting firms embarked on this trend and developed BPR methods. However, the critics were fast to claim that BPR was a way to dehumanize the workplace, increase managerial control, and to justify downsizing, and a rebirth of Taylorism under a different label. Taylor is a father of scientific management, Frederick Winslow Taylor. Despite this critique, re-engineering was adopted at an accelerating pace, and by 1993, as many as 60% of the Fortune 500 companies claimed to either have initiated re-engineering efforts or to have plans to do so. This trend was fueled by the fast adoption of BPR by the consulting industry, but also by the study made in USA conducted by MIT that showed how companies in many US industries had lagged behind the foreign counterparts in terms of competitiveness, time to market, and productivity. More recently, the concept of business process management (BPM) has gained major attention in the corporate world and can be considered a successor to the BPR way of the 1990s, as it is evenly driven by striving for process efficiency supported by information technology (IT). Equivalently to the critique brought forward against BPR, BPM is now accused of focusing on technology and disregarding the people aspects of things. BPR is different from other approaches to organization development, especially the continuous improvement or TQM, total quality management movement, by virtue of its aim for fundamental and radical change rather than iterative improvement. Iterative is repetitive. Okay. We make the changes step by step. In order to achieve the major improvements, BPR is seeking for the change of structural organizational variables and other ways of managing and performing work is often considered insufficient. For being able to reap the benefits, achievable benefits fully, the use of IT, information technology, is conceived as a major contributing factor. While IT traditionally has been used for supporting the existing business functions, it now plays a role as enabler of new organizational forms and patterns of collaboration within and between organizations. BPR derives its existence from other different disciplines, and four major areas can be identified as being subjected to change in BPR: organization, technology, strategy, and people, where a process view is used as a common framework for considering these dimensions. Business strategy is the primary driver of BPR initiatives, and the other dimensions are governed by strategies encompassing role. The organization dimension reflects the structural elements of the company, such as hierarchical levels, the composition of organizational units, and the distribution of work between them. Technology is concerned with the use of computer systems and many forms of communication technology in the business. In BPR, IT is generally considered to act as an enabler of new forms of organizing and collaborating rather than supporting existing business functions. The people human resources dimension deals with aspects such as education, training, motivation, and reward systems. The concept of business process, interrelated activities aiming at creating a value-added output to a customer is a basic underlying idea of BPR. These processes are characterized by a number of attributes: process ownership, customer ownership, focus, value addition, and cross-functionality. IT has historically played an important role in the re-engineering concept. It is regarded by some as a major enabler for new forms of working and collaborating within an organization and across organizational borders. BPR literature identifies several so-called disruptive technologies that are supposed to challenge traditional wisdom about how work should be performed. Standard shared databases, making information available at many places, expert systems allowing generalists to perform specialist tasks, telecommunication networks allowing organizations to be centralized and decentralized at the same time, decision support tools allowing decision making to be a part of everyday's job, wireless data communication and portable computers allowing field personnel to work office, independent interactive video disk to get in information, immediate contact with the potential buyers, automatic identification and tracking allowing things to tell where they are instead of requiring to be found, high performance computing allowing on the fly planning and revisioning. In the mid-1990s, especially, workflow management systems are considered a significant contributor to improve process efficiency. Also, ERP, enterprise Resource planning vendors such as SAP, JD Edwards, Oracle, and PeopleSoft position the solutions as vehicles for business process redesign and improvement. Factors that are important to BPR success include BPR team composition, business needs analysis, adequate IT infrastructure, effective change management, ongoing continuous improvement. The aspects of BPM effort that are modified include organizational structures, management systems, employee responsibilities and performance measurements, incentive systems, skills development, and the use of IT. Excuse me. BPR can potentially affect every aspect of how business is conducted today. Wholesale changes can cause results ranging from enviable success to complete failure. If successful, a BPM initiative can result in improved quality, customer service, and competitiveness, as well as reductions in cost or cycle time. However, a 50 to 70% of re-engineering projects are either failures or do not achieve significant benefit. There are many reasons for suboptimal business process, which include one department may be optimized at the expense of another, lack of time to focus on improving business process, lack of recognition of the extent of the problem, lack of training, people involved use the best tool they have at their disposal, which is usually Excel, to fix problems, inadequate infrastructure, overly bureaucratic process, lack of motivation. Many successful business BPR attempts may have been due to the confusion. Unsuccessful BPR attempts may have been due to the confusion surrounding BPR and how it should be performed. Organizations were well aware that changes needed to be made but did not know which areas need to change and how to change them. As a result, process re-engineering is a management concept that has been formed by trial and error or heuristics, in other words, practical experience. As more and more businesses re-engineer, their process, knowledge of what caused the successes or failures is becoming apparent. To reap lasting benefits, companies must be willing to examine how strategy and re-engineering complement each other by learning to quantify strategy in terms of cost, milestones, and timetables, by accepting ownership of the strategy throughout the organization, by assessing the organization's current capabilities and process realistically, and by linking strategy to the budgeting process. Otherwise, BPR is only a short-term efficiency exercise. Major changes in business process have a direct effect on process, technology, job roles, and workplace culture. Significant changes to even one of those areas requires resources, money, and leadership. Changing them simultaneously is an extraordinary task. Like any large and complex undertaking, implementing re-engineering requires the talents and energies of a broad spectrum of experts. Since BPR can involve multiple areas within the organization, it is important to get support from all affected departments. Through the involvement of selected department members, the organization can gain valuable input before a process is implemented, a step that promotes both the cooperation and the vital acceptance of the re-engineered processes by all segments of the organization. Getting enterprise-wide commitment involves the following: top management sponsorship, bottom-up buy-in from process users, dedicated BPR team, and budget allocation for the total solution with the measures to demonstrate value. Before any BPR project can be implemented successfully, there must be commitment to the project by the management of the organization, and strong leadership must be provided. Re-engineering efforts can by no means be exercised without a company-wide commitment to the goals. However, top management commitment is imperative for success. Top management must recognize the need for change, develop a complete understanding of what BPR is, and plan how to achieve it. Leadership has to be effective, strong, visible, and creative in thinking and understanding in order to provide a clear vision. Convincing every affected group within the organization of the need for BPR is a key step in successfully implementing process. By informing all affected groups at every stage and emphasizing the positive end results of the re-engineering process, it is possible to minimize resistance to change and increase the odds for success. The ultimate success of BPR depends on the strong, consistent, and continuous involvement of all department levels within the organization. Once an organization-wide commitment has been secured from all departments involved in the re-engineering effort at different levels, the critical step of selecting a BPR team must be taken. This team will form the nucleus of the BPR effort, make key decisions and recommendations, and help communicate the details and benefits of the BPR program to the entire organization. The determinants of an effective BPR team may be summarized as follows: competency of the members of the team, their motivation, their credibility within the organization, and the creativity, team empowerment, training of members in process mapping and brainstorming techniques. Effective team leadership, proper organization of the team, complementary skills among team members, adequate size, interchangeable accountability, clarity of work approach, and specificity of goals. The most effective BPR teams include active representatives from the following work groups: top management, the business area responsible for the process being addressed, technology groups, finance, and members of all the ultimate process users groups. Team members who are selected from each work group within the organization will affect the outcome of the re-engineered process according to the desired requirements. The BPR team should be mixed in depth and knowledge. For example, it may include members with the following characteristics: members who do not know how the process at all, members who know the process inside out, customers if possible, members representing affected departments, 1 or 2 members of the best, brightest, passionate, and committed technology experts, members from outside the organization. Okay. Moreover, COVID in 1997 recommends that in order to have an effective BPR team, it must be kept under 10 players, not too many. Too many cooks spoil the broth. If the organization fails to keep the team at a manageable size, the entire process will be much more difficult to execute efficiently and effectively. The efforts of the team must be focused on identifying breakthrough opportunities and designing new work steps or processes that will create quantum gains and competitive advantage. Another important factor in the success of any BPR effort is performing a thorough business needs analysis. Too often, BPR teams jump directly into technology without first assessing the current process of the organization and determining what exactly needs re-engineering. In this analysis phase, a series of sessions should be held with the process owners and stakeholders regarding the need and strategy for BPR. These sessions build a consensus as to the vision of the ideal business process. They help identify essential goals for BPR within each department and then collectively define objectives for how the project will affect each work group or department on an individual basis and the department business organization as a whole. The idea of these sessions is to conceptualize the ideal business process for the organization and build a business process model. Those items that seem unnecessary or unrealistic may be eliminated or modified later on in the diagnosing stage of the BPR project. It is important to acknowledge and evaluate all ideas in order to make all participants feel that they are a part of this important and crucial process. The results of these meetings will help formulate the basic plan for the project. This plan includes the following: identifying specific problem areas, solidifying particular goals, and defining business objectives. The business needs analysis contributes tremendously to the re-engineering efforts by helping the BPR team to prioritize and determine where it should focus its improvement efforts. The business needs analysis also helps in relating the BPR project goals back to the key business objectives and the overall strategic direction for the organization. This linkage should show the thread from the top to the bottom of the organization so each person can easily connect the overall business direction with a re-engineering effort. This alignment must be demonstrated from the perspective of business, financial performance, customer service, associated value, and the vision for the organization. Developing a business vision and process objectives rely on the one hand on a clear understanding of organizational strengths, weaknesses, and market structure, and on the other an awareness and knowledge about innovative activities undertaken by competitors and other organizations. BPA projects that are not in alignment with the organization's strategic direction can be counterproductive. There is always a possibility that an organization may make significant investments in an area that is not a core competency for the company and later outsource its capability. Such re-engineering initiatives are wasteful and steal resources from other strategic projects. Moreover, without strategic alignment, the organization's key stakeholders and sponsors may find themselves unable to provide the level of support the organization needs in terms of resources, especially if there are other more critical projects to the future of the business and are more aligned with the strategic direction. Researchers consider adequate IT infrastructure reassessment and composition as a vital factor in successful BPR implementation. Factors related to IT infrastructure are the effective alignment of IT infrastructure and BPR strategy, building an effective IT infrastructure, adequate IT infrastructure investment decisions, adequate measurement of IT infrastructure effectiveness, proper information system integration, effective re-engineering of legacy IS, increasing IT function competency and effective use of software tools is the most important factor that contributes to the success of BPR projects. Most analysts view BPR and IT as irrevocably linked. Change management, which involves all human and social related changes and cultural adjustment changes needed by management to facilitate the insertion of newly designed processes and structures into working practice and to deal effectively with the resistance, is considered by many researchers to be a critical component, crucial component of any BPR effort. One of the most overlooked obstacles to successful BPR project implementation is resistance from those whom implementers believe will benefit the most. Most projects underestimate the cultural effect of major process and structural change, and as a result do not achieve the full potential of the change effort. Many people fail to understand that change is not an event but rather a management technique. Change is the only constant in real life. Change management is a discipline of managing change as a process with the due consideration that employees are people, not programmable machines. Change is implicitly driven by motivation, which is fueled by the recognition of the need for change. An important step towards any successful re-engineering effort is to convey an understanding of the necessity for change. It is a well-known fact that organizations do not change unless people change. The better the change is managed, the less painful the transition is. Organizational culture is a determining factor in successful BPR implementation. Organizational culture influences the organization's ability to adapt to change. Culture in an organization is a self-reinforcing set of beliefs, attitudes, and behavior. Culture is one of the most resistant elements of organizational behavior and is extremely difficult to change. BPR must consider current culture in order to change these beliefs, attitudes, and behaviors effectively. Messages conveyed from management in an organization continuously enforce current culture. Change is implicitly driven by motivation, which is fueled by the recognition of the need for change. The first step towards any successful transformation effort is to convey an understanding of the necessity for change. Management reward system, stories of company origin, and early successes of founders, physical symbols, and company icons constantly reinforce the message of the current culture. Implementing BPR successfully is dependent on how thoroughly management conveys the new culture messages to the organization. These messages provide people in an organization with a guideline to predict the outcome of acceptable behavior patterns. People should be the focus of any successful business change. BPR is not a recipe but successful business transformation if it focuses on only computer technology and process redesign. In fact, many BPR projects have failed because they did not recognize the importance of the human element in implementing BPR. People are understanding too much importance for IT, which is wrong. IT is only a tool. Understanding the people in organizations, the current company culture, motivation, leadership, and past performance is essential to recognize, understand, and integrate into the vision and implementation of BPR. If the human element is given equal or greater emphasis on BPR, the odds of a successful business transformation increase substantially. In conclusion, successful BPR can potentially create substantial improvements in the way organizations do business and can actually produce fundamental improvements for business operations. However, in order to achieve that, there are some key success factors that must be taken into consideration when performing BPR. BPR success factors are a collection of lessons learned from re-engineering projects. Life itself is a trial and error process, you know that. Okay. Re-engineering efforts, and from these lessons, common themes have emerged. In addition, the ultimate success of BPR depends on the people who do it and on how well they can be committed and motivated to be creative and to apply the detailed knowledge to the re-engineering initiative. Organizations planning to undertake BPR must take into consideration the success factors of BPR in order to ensure that the re-engineering related change efforts are comprehensive, well implemented, and have a minimum chance of failure. This has been very beneficial in all terms. Many companies used re-engineering as a pretext of downsizing, though this was not the intent of re-engineering's proponents. Consequently, re-engineering earned a reputation for being synonymous with the downsizing and layoffs In many circumstances, re-engineering has not always lived up to its expectations. Some prominent reasons include re-engineering assumes that the factor that limits an organization's performance is the ineffectiveness of its process and offers no means of validating that assumption. Re-engineering assumes the need to start the process of performance improvement with a clean slate, that is, totally disregard the status quo. According to Eliago Goldratt and his theory of constraints, re-engineering does not provide an effective way to focus improvement efforts on the organization's constraint. Others have claimed that re-engineering was a recycled buzzword for commonly held ideas. Abrahamson argued that fashionable management terms tend to follow a life cycle which for re-engineering peaked between 1993 and 1996. They argued that re-engineering was in fact nothing new. When Henry Ford implemented the assembly line in 1908, he was in fact re-engineering. It's all like old wine in a new bottle only. Use of new technology. That is what the management people do. Okay, radically changing the way of thinking in an organization. The most frequent critique against BPR concerns a strict focus on efficiency and technology, the disregard of people in the organization that is subjected to the re-engineering initiative. One should never regard the people. Very often the label BPR was used for major workforce reductions. Sequence of steps for BPR are identifying and communicating the need for change, put together a team of experts, find the inefficient process and define key performance indicators, re-engineer the process and compare the KPI, key performance indicators, document process, onboard and train your team from anywhere, track process to prevent errors and omissions, automate business decisions and client experiences. The need for BPR surfaces through a variety of ways. For instance, from an article, is it time to overhaul your process? Here are some indicators that it may be time for a BPR project. Customer complaints and refund requests are rising. Staff stress, disputes and turnover are high. Turnovers. Chaos reigns after experienced employees depart or go out on leave. Profitability is falling. Sales leads are not being followed up. Quickly. Corporate governance has been lacking. You are struggling with your cash flow, your inventory levels are rising, you cannot fill customer orders quickly enough. Continuous improvement, CA is an ongoing effort to improve a product or service. The American Society of Quality Control, ASQ, holds that CA efforts can include incremental improvement, where the improvement occurs gradually over time, as well as breakthrough improvement, where the improvement happens all at once. CA often requires an organization to first undergo a cultural change before it can have any real chance of success. BPR is often thought a part of continuous improvement efforts as teams look for ways to improve business process as part of overall CA scope. BPR is also closely tied to BPM, as I said before, business process management, and it makes sense to have a healthy understanding of both disciplines. I conclude the statement that BPR is very useful continuous improvement tool for any organization to improve their process, quality and productivity. Improvement should be continuous, sustained. Otherwise it's of no use. Debates, discussion on topics like this can go on forever. Anyway, let me call it a day. We'll meet again real soon. Some of the statements views expressed are solely mine, based on limited knowledge gained over 6 decades. Always watch these videos with a closed caption for absolute 100% comprehension, as my sincere recommendation zillion times so far. I know I rushed through to complete the presentation within 20 minutes max. This is a time limit. I had set myself to retain the viewer's attention as a norm. I know nowadays I exceed this time limit since I make honest attempts to cover the selected topic more elaborately, including so many intricate fine details, referring a wide variety of sources, in particular Wikipedia quite extensively, besides articles and books published recently. In addition, I add my own salt and pepper and masala based on my personal experiences so far in my life and also intuition. Stay at home as much as possible to maintain social distancing attributed to pandemic novel COVID-19 and prolong your lifespan. Lead a healthy life. God alone can put a stop to natural and unnatural events, maybe bio war, cyber war events like pandemics, which may lead to apocalypse and extinction of all sentient species on earth for no fault of theirs. All the best. Rest in peace and